Good evening, I'm Jeff Koinange, and this is Jeff Koinange Live. And you know, if it's Wednesday, it's all about politics, but just for a moment, let's put flying toilets aside and maybe even the Mumia's recovery. Let's put that aside and talk about other issues, because despite the fact that politics is our DNA here in this country, there are other issues that are as pertinent, as important. And when you think of Dr. Paula Kahumbu, talk about passion, talk about an ability to take something and run with it. They describe her as the Wangari Maathai of wildlife. I don't know if that's a, positive description or not, but yes, that's what they do. But I tell you, she's tenacious, she's tough, she's passionate, she loves what she does. 2 years ago, she started a campaign called Hands Off Our Elephants. It's run by Wildlife Direct, with the First Lady as the patron. 2 years later, there are laws in place, poachers are being arrested, jailed, fined. Things are happening. Right now in Kenya, about 10 elephants get poached every month. That's about 120 a year. Imagine what it was a few years ago. Things are happening. Although once in a while, like happened a couple of days ago, several containers, which were supposed to be transporting tea to Asia, were discovered to have ivory in them, about 5 tons worth. One step forward, 2 steps backwards, I don't know. We'll talk about that. Other issues, SGR coming through all the way, going through people's properties and factories, etc. The Southern Bypass in the Nairobi National Park. So many issues. This is the time and the place to talk about it. Her Twitter handle is @Paula Kahumbu. Mine is @Koinange Jeff. The hashtag, let's use this one. Save wildlife. How about that? Save wildlife. Dr. Paula Kahumbu.
Hi, Jeff.
You dressed up. You dressed up.
For you.
I called your bluff, didn't I? You didn't believe I was going to say, Paula, come on tonight.
I didn't believe it. The issues that we've been raising have gone quiet in the media. So I was really thrilled that you picked it up the moment I tagged you on Twitter. These things need to be discussed. They're very important.
Yeah, but Paula, you say they've gone quiet on Twitter, but if it wasn't for media, this Hands Off Our Elephants campaign, this thing would have been dead in the water, or it would have taken off the way it has, right?
No, you're absolutely right. I think with any campaign, whether it's the First Lady's Beyond Zero campaign or our elephant campaigns, the media is vital. And the media needs to be so well informed to be able to allow the public to make the right decisions, to inform our members of parliament, to drive policy decisions. So the media is really, really vital. Yeah. But like you said, there's so much politics in the media right now, and there is so much stuff happening that is really not constructive, and it's not helping this nation. And a lot of important things like the state of our environment, like the flooding that took place recently, these things need to have greater attention. We just need to start addressing these problems. Yeah,
but in the meantime, you know, all we're talking about is flying toilets. By the way, your thoughts on burning down toilets that the NYS was trying to upgrade and uplift the people of Kibera? Your thoughts?
I just think it's tragic that young people in this country can be led astray by individuals and persuaded to destroy things which are important and valuable to them. I struggle with it. I really struggle with it. We have a real problem. It's almost like it's an infection among young people that they're willing to do things that are not really in their best interest.
It's tragic.
Yeah, it's
tragic.
It's awful.
It's a travesty.
But it's a lot to do with poverty. There's a lot to do with poor levels of education. And the fact that, I'm sorry to say, the media also do shine a light on some of the worst kinds of leaders. And young people want to be like those guys. And so it's not surprising. Young people want to go around wearing flashy clothes and bling and all that stuff, and they forget about the real values, the values that our parents had and raised us with.
Yeah. Enough about Sonko. Can we move on?
I didn't say that.
Okay. The latest haul, I mean, 3 days ago, a story comes out of, was it Thailand, Malaysia? Thailand. Container was supposed to be shipping tea. They impounded it and found ivory. And it turned out to be the largest haul, was it? About 5 tons?
The seizure of ivory in Thailand was the largest seizure they'd ever had. And a few days later, they had another seizure in Singapore, 2 more seizures in Singapore, all of them from Kenya. You know, Jeff, I'm not surprised. Kenya is #1 in the world in the transiting of ivory. This ivory is not Kenyan ivory primarily. We believe it's coming from other countries. DNA analysis, which you can do from the tusks themselves, show us that this ivory is coming from Tanzania, from Mozambique, and from Central Africa.
So what are we, a transit hub?
We are absolutely a transit hub, which what it means is that cartels, international criminal cartels, are basing themselves in Kenya because they can corrupt people at the ports, at the borders, at the airports, and they can move vast, vast volumes of illegal wildlife products. Now, ivory is a big one, but in the second seizure in Singapore, there was also rhino horn. Now, a rhino horn is worth more than its weight in gold, about twice its weight in gold. So to see that being moved through Kenya as well, I mean, it means Kenya is playing a vital role in the extinction of elephants across the entire continent.
2 years ago, when Hands Off Our Elephants started the campaign, would you have thought, Paula, that 2 years later, people are being fined, people are being jailed, foreigners as well?
Jeff, when we started the campaign, we were very ambitious. We expected things to be far, far better than they are today. We expected there to be major reforms in the wildlife sector. We expected the Kenya Wildlife Service to have been totally overhauled and restructured so that it was effective given this new world of international wildlife crime. The organization is the same way it was constructed in the 1980s. It can't operate with these new threats. Yeah. We also expected to see wildlife crimes, international wildlife crimes, being handled in the High Court, not in magistrates' courts. You can imagine what happens in magistrates' courts. It's very easy for magistrates to dismiss cases, to find the evidence is lacking, investigations are not done very well. I mean, rhino horns go missing from our courts. That's how bad it is. If these were handled as high court cases, the way that lands issues are dealt with, or the way international crimes are dealt with, I think we'd see much more progress. For the first time in our history, we have wildlife traffickers under arrest in this country. Now, all eyes around the world are on the Mombasa court. Faisal Muhammad Ali has been arrested. He's been in jail since December of last year. We now have Abdul Rahim Sheikh and his 2 sons. They are also in Mombasa. The success of those prosecutions, which are being, the DPP and his team are working very hard to secure convictions, but it depends on the quality of the evidence. It depends on the way that the judiciary is operating. We've got a long way to go, Jeff. I mean, there's a real risk. These guys will walk.
What's the worst case scenario for these guys? What's the maximum they can get?
Oh, my dream is that they get the most severe penalty, which would be life imprisonment. But they could also get life imprisonment plus a 20 million shilling fine as a minimum. And given the cost to the economy of Kenya, given the cost to our heritage and future generations, they deserve that and worse.
When's the trial?
Faisal's trial starts on the 17th of July. And the other guy's trial, Abdul Rahman's trial, they're only just initiating the preliminary phases, just started.
But in between, Paula, I mean, people have been fined a couple of million shillings. People have been, there's been some progress.
Look, true, there's been a lot of progress. There's no question there's been a lot of progress. But Jeff, even if people are paying fines of 1 million shillings, the fact is they can pay it. Why can they pay it? Because of the scale and the value of ivory in the international markets today. So yes, we're arresting lots of people and lots of people are paying these huge fines, but they're getting out and they're continuing with what they're doing. We have Vietnamese people being arrested with rhino horns worth millions of dollars, and they're paying fines and they're leaving the country. We're losing more than 33,000 elephants a year in Africa. We're not winning, Jeff, we are not winning. We risk losing our elephants from most of Africa within the next 15 to 20 years.
And how many rhinos are we losing?
So Kenya has only about 1,000 rhinos.
Left?
Yes.
That's it?
That is it.
Is it black rhino? Is it?
We have black rhinos and white rhinos, and we have the northern white rhinos, which are virtually extinct. There are no breeding individuals left. There are only a handful of them left up in northern Kenya. The black rhinos, the numbers are I think about 800, and the remainder are white rhinos. Black rhinos in Kenya are really our gold. They are special. We have 80% of that subspecies in the world live in Kenya. So they're vital. And I fear that despite the massive militarization, if you go to Lewa or Ol Pejira, you'll see what they've got. Helicopters, They've got attack dogs, they've got sniffer dogs, they've got armies protecting these rhinos. But so long as the price of rhino horn continues to rise, the incentive for poachers to undermine our legal systems, to undermine the rangers on the ground, it will continue, and we'll continue to lose them. We just lost several rhinos in Oljogi alone, 10 this year already.
10 in the last 5-6 months?
In one conservancy, yeah.
Goodness. I mean, is the demand that high? What is it about the rhino horn, Paula? You tell us. What is it about this rhino horn that's so...
I think it's so sad that we in Africa know rhinos and we in Africa know elephants. We don't know much about the demand. Well, I can tell you that when it comes to rhino horn, the demand is primarily in Vietnam, where they believe that it has medicinal properties. But the demand in Vietnam is now being eclipsed by the demand in China, where they believe that rhino horn, if you sprinkle it on your food every day, it will keep you free of cancer, it will cure you of a hangover, it'll cure you of a headache. I mean, ridiculous things that you can actually find much cheaper cures for.
And the aphrodisiac thing, is that a myth as well?
Well, it's partially myth. It's been overblown by the West, that the aphrodisiac properties of rhino horn. Yes, there is some of that, but it's not the major driver of rhino horn demand in Asia. The demand is so high that the price of rhino horn, compared to any other commodity in the world, is rising, faster. If you were a dealer in Asia and you wanted to invest in something that's value is growing, you'd invest in rhino horn.
And the horrific pictures we see, Paula, I mean, the rhino horn just shaved off and the rhino literally, left to suffer incredible pain. I mean, goodness.
It's the worst poaching in the world for rhinos is South Africa. So the interesting thing is, I spent several days down there. The interesting thing is they have a story that the worst poaching is in Kenya.
Is that right?
The worst poaching is not in Kenya. South Africa is losing 4 rhinos per day.
Come on.
Yes.
With all the technology and everything?
They're losing 4 rhinos per day, and it's white collar crime. In Kenya, you see, it's mainly poor guys with a Kalashnikov, and they're feeding the horns to somebody else. In South Africa, they are veterinarians, they are wealthy farmers, they are business people who are literally going after the rhinos, shooting them themselves, using drugs, which is why you see those suffering animals, because they dart them, they immobilize them, they chop off that horn, and then the poor animal wakes up and its face is completely, it's unbelievable suffering that they cause to these animals.
It's like cutting your nose to spite your face.
Yeah, it's, I mean, what's happening in South Africa, which is even more troubling, is that despite the fact that they're losing rhinos at such a fast rate, they have decided that maybe they should just cash in these animals. They want to propose at the next CITES convention, which takes place in South Africa, in Johannesburg. They want to propose opening up trade in rhino horn. And they have some pretty bizarre ideas that they think that if we sell the rhino horns, then we'll get some money and we'll be able to pay for their protection. Well, the fact is they can't. The cartels are far too powerful, and the cartels have resources from other businesses that they're up to. It won't work. We have to kill the demand.
That'll wipe out make it extinct, won't it?
So in South Africa, they've got the means to put in enormous anti-poaching efforts. So what do the poachers do? They just move to the next best place, right? So they've eliminated rhinos from Mozambique. They're gone now, completely gone. Really? They're now operating in Namibia, where I was there in April. They had lost 60 rhinos in the first 4 months of this year. Last year, they lost 24 rhinos in the whole year. So you can see that what's happened is just escalating out of control. Kenya is the world's 3rd largest population of rhinos. My prediction is that those guys are going to be in our borders before we know it, and we're just not ready. Yeah. We're not ready. They're going to hammer our rhinos. And we need to start preparing. We need to get ready. We need to address things like borders, immigration, the drugs that are being used in these operations.
Can we win that war, Paula?
We can't win it without support of China and Vietnam. And at the moment, I'm not seeing the cooperation that we need.
I want to talk about that after this break, Paula. I want to talk about China. You and the good old chairman of the KWS, Dr. Richard Leakey, you were in Hong Kong recently.
That's right.
Great trip. I want to hear how it went, because you went on an awareness trip and we want to know how it was.
We had an extraordinary 1-week visit.
Hold that thought. Number 2, how is it? I mean, Dr. Leakey's been his job like what, a couple of months now? Are things happening?
Absolutely.
Seriously?
Look, Dr. Leakey doesn't sleep. He works.
Come on. We thought he was 120 years old. I mean, he must be old and tired.
Dr. Leakey's just turned 70. He's not that old at all. He's incredibly energized by coming back into the wildlife.
Really?
Yes.
That's why they're making a movie about him, right? Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, we know this. Come on. All right, we'll talk about it. You're holding back, Paula. You're holding back. Are you in the movie?
No.
Can I be in the movie?
I think you need to ask the producers.
Wow. Passionate about what she does. Find out more about Hands Off Our Elephants campaign, courtesy Wildlife Direct, folks. These folks are literally changing the landscape. It's been a campaign that's been going on for 2 years now. The First Lady is the patron. They are doing some great things. Look at Paula's band there. You know, they're doing some amazing stuff. You have an event coming up later on. We'll talk about all that, okay? Keep tweeting at Paula Kahumbu, at Koinange Jeff, the hashtag Save Wildlife. Jeff Koinange Live takes a break. Don't go away. We'll be back in a moment.